Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. Drones and missiles are being launched as part of the operation. Sirens were heard in the port city of Haifa, as well as across central and northern Israel, including near military sites. Air defense systems are active over Israel, and impacts have been reported simultaneously. Massive smoke was also observed in the capital city, Tel Aviv. Iranian forces carried out strikes on U.S. bases in Bahrain. In clear footage, a ballistic missile is seen hitting its target. The steep, inclined impact angle suggests it was a short-range ballistic missile, as most U.S. bases in the Gulf fall within the range of Iranian short-range ballistic missiles. The missile reportedly struck Jubair, Bahrain, where the headquarters of the U.S. Fifth Fleet is located. Strikes are also reportedly underway against other U.S. military facilities in the Middle East, including Qatar and Kuwait. Iran continues to launch ballistic missiles in waves at targets across the region. Missiles of all types, short-range, medium ones, and long-range, are being deployed. The footage shows the launch of 2 missiles from the same launcher, most likely short-range, aimed toward a Gulf country. In another clip, a missile's booster section can be seen falling in Iraq after separation, engulfed in flames. This could be interception mid-air by anti-ballistic missile defense system, or the regular separation of booster section. In this footage, an Iranian Shahed 136 drone strikes what appears to be an American radar or communication system based at the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet headquarters in Bahrain. The drone precisely hits the target, indicating the possible use of a homing or guidance system in its seeker. Smoke can already be seen rising from the base before the impact. The U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet serves as a nerve center for naval operations in the region. In this epic moment, an Iranian ballistic missile is intercepted near a military base in Qatar's capital, Doha. The missile debris fell right next to a busy street in a residential area, and local residents can be seen running on the roads and filming, coming dangerously close to the detonation of burning fuel residues. Even the warhead could have detonated later, if not burst at the interception point. People should remain indoors to avoid any potential collateral damage. This is the scene of air defense over Israel, as Iranian ballistic missiles with multiple warheads approach. Multiple interceptor missiles are being launched, and in some cases, 2 interceptors target a single missile to increase the probability of a hit. According to Israeli forces, 220 Iranian ballistic missiles have been fired toward Israel until now, with most successfully intercepted. Meanwhile, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps claims to have launched 1,200 ballistic missiles at various targets across the region, of which the 220 were directed at Israel. Iranian forces launched ballistic missiles toward Al Udeid Air Base. At the start, 2 interceptor missiles from a Patriot battery were launched, but they failed to stop the incoming ballistic missile and detonated near it. Shortly after, another Patriot interceptor was fired in an attempt to intercept, but it also failed. The missiles being launched were PAC-3 MSE interceptors. The maximum engagement range of the interceptor against ballistic missile targets is approximately 60 kilometers. This is a scene of an Iranian ballistic missile hitting a target in Tel Aviv. The missile evaded interceptor missiles and struck its intended target. There are reports suggesting that the missile hit a building associated with the Ministry of Defense. Due to rear thrust vectoring and maneuverability of the warhead designed to evade air defenses, the missile, or possibly the warhead, appears to be on fire while still maintaining its course toward the target. The missile ultimately impacts, causing visible damage. In Dubai, during the Iranian attacks, the famous Burj Al Arab Hotel was hit by a Shahed drone on the lower floors. It is not yet clear whether the building was the intended target, or if it was struck by a downed drone, as number of kamikaze drones are shot down by air defense systems. The iconic 5-star hotel is on fire, and if firefighters fail to contain it, the entire building could be engulfed in flames, similar to the incident in Bahrain when a Shahed drone hit a structure. This footage shows an Iranian ballistic missile attack on Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. The video was recorded from inside the base, near the Patriot launchers. Multiple ballistic missiles can be seen incoming. In response, Patriot PAC-3 interceptor missiles are launched to counter the threat. Several of the ballistic missiles appear to be intercepted. However, a notable moment occurs when one of the interceptor missiles veers off course shortly after launch and strikes the ground, indicating a possible guidance failure. This is footage of an Iranian kamikaze drone approaching Dubai International Airport, flying without being intercepted. The drone ultimately struck one of the airport's lanes. flight operations were interrupted. The free passage of the drone highlights the limited air defense capabilities in the region, particularly in counter-drone systems. Laser-based defense systems, in particular, are designed to neutralize such slow-moving drones with precision and minimal collateral damage. The Iranian forces have published footage showing the launch of multiple ballistic missiles toward targets in the Middle East and Israel. Most of the missiles appear to be short-range, with targets reportedly located in Bahrain, Qatar, and Dubai. Many of them were intercepted. While the interceptions represent a significant success, they also highlight the depletion of interceptor stocks, which are available in limited numbers. In some cases, up to 2 Patriot interceptors are launched against a single ballistic missile, and occasionally a third is expended. Despite these efforts, some missiles still manage to hit their targets. This footage shows an Iranian Arsh-2 loitering munition impacting the U.S. base camp located in Kuwait. The Arsh-2 is a long-range Iranian kamikaze drone, reportedly with a range of up to 2,000 kilometers and carrying a warhead of around 150 kilograms. The drone is powered by a rear-mounted piston engine, which can be clearly heard as it approaches its target. Iran is believed to possess hundreds of such drones, and the apparent successful strike highlights a potential short-range air defense gap. Iraqi resistance groups and Iran have conducted a strike on an American base in Erbil, Iraq. Fire erupted after the impact, followed by secondary explosions. The pattern of the blasts suggests that air defense systems were hit, possibly indicating a Patriot battle. Shahed 136 drones were reportedly used to target the base. Earlier, a CRAM close-in weapon system was also observed operating from the base. In this case, the defense system appears to have been overwhelmed, as 2 to 3 explosions in close succession. Iranian forces launched 9th wave of ballistic missiles, and one of the ballistic missiles bypassed Israeli defenses over Jerusalem. Interceptor missiles were launched from 2 Iron Dome batteries, with around 10 interceptors fired at 3 incoming ballistic missiles. 2 were successfully intercepted, while 1 penetrated the defenses. The missile ultimately struck the road where a car was driving at that time, leaving a huge crater. It missed its intended target, as the CEP of certain Iranian missiles is quite large. This is footage of a US F-15E crashing over Kuwait. The aircraft is seen in a free fall, spinning while on fire, with both rear vertical stabilizers missing from the airframe. The pilot ejected and survived the incident. The cause of the crash remains unknown at this stage. However, the Iranian side has already announced the successful downing of an F-15 over Kuwait. The aircraft appears to have lost control immediately after an explosion. Kuwait is close to the Iran and with an Iranian long-range surface-to-air missiles. This is footage of another US F-15 aircraft over Kuwait. The official press release from the Kuwaiti army mentioned that several aircraft have crashed. The fall of this jet appears completely different from the previous incident. In addition, footage related to the pilots also suggests that more than one aircraft may have gone down. At this stage, the exact cause remains unknown. The Iranian side claims that at least 1 F-15 was hit, while the possibility of friendly fire from a Patriot air defense system cannot be ruled out. This is a MiG-29 Fulcrum of the Iranian Air Force currently flying over Tehran to hunt for drones. There are also images of Yak-130 aircraft equipped with air-to-air missiles operating in the air. This raises questions about the Israeli claim of complete air superiority over Iran. Usually, attacks from Israel and the US are conducted in waves, with strikes carried out from standoff ranges. Constant air patrols are not maintained, and Iranian aircraft are being targeted and hit while still on the ground. Iranian forces launched a wave of ballistic missiles on the 3rd of February in the morning. The missiles were aimed at Beersheba, Israel. Interceptor missiles were launched in response, but one of the ballistic missiles passed straight through the defenses and struck targets on the ground. Even the interceptors blast right close to it. Still, the missile continued its path and hit the target. It has been observed that Iranian missiles are increasingly penetrating the defense network, raising questions about whether newer generation systems are being employed, or whether the air defense coverage is becoming thinner. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has released footage showing the launch of intermediate-range ballistic missiles, most likely toward Israel, including the Imad and Qadr systems. The Imad has a range of approximately 1,700 kilometers and carries a payload of around 750 kilograms. The Qadr missile has a range of about 2,000 kilometers and is capable of carrying an 800-kilogram warhead. Both missiles use liquid fuel as propellant. the missiles are launched from road-based launcher platforms. The Iranian forces has released footage of drones being launched toward targets in the region. At first, an underground complex housing hundreds of Shahed 136 drones is shown, followed by the launch of the drones using rocket boosters. The Shahed drone has a range of around 2,500 kilometers, which permits launches deep from within Iranian territory toward targets across the Middle East. These drones are currently dominating over the Gulf countries, as there is a lack of short-range air defense systems. An Iranian kamikaze drone struck the American base Al-Salim, Kuwait. The drone hit an area where armored vehicles were parked, but judging from the blast, no serious damage appears to have occurred, indicating that the drone was likely small in size with a limited payload. The armored vehicles also seem to have sustained only minimal damage. A notable point is that there appears to be no short-range air defense system deployed in the base. Even a single Avenger vehicle could have potentially intercepted such a drone. Iranian forces have launched one of their largest and newest ballistic missiles toward a U.S. military base in the Middle East. The missile is most likely the Khorramshahr 4, or the Sajid, reportedly capable of carrying a warhead weighing around 1,500 kilograms. Currently, the ballistic missile is traveling at high speed toward its intended target. It should be noted that the United States has deployed the THAAD system in the Middle East as well. If the incoming warhead possesses maneuvering capability in the terminal phase, it could significantly increase the chances of penetrating missile defense systems. This is the footage of an Iranian ballistic missile attack on a U.S. base in Bahrain. Multiple interceptor missiles were launched from a Patriot air defense system, around 10 against a single incoming ballistic missile. However, the missile managed to bypass the defense and strike the target. The shockwave also came later in the footage. A notable point is that the Iranian ballistic missile in the terminal phase is thrusting, which activated intervals to increase the warhead's speed. This causes variations in speed along the flight path. Iranian forces have once again launched a cluster warhead ballistic missile toward Israel. The missile descended in the same pattern as before, dispersing approximately 24 submunitions. The main carrier separated and slowed down during the terminal phase. The air defense system appears ineffective against this type of missile, as it re-enters the atmosphere in a clustered form, making interception extremely difficult. This is not debris from an intercepted missile, and here is the impact of a submunition from the missile in Petah Tikva, Israel. During an attack on U.S. bases in Jordan, a Patriot interceptor missile appears to have gone off course and struck a building inside the base. Most likely, the target it was pursuing had already been destroyed or impacted the ground, causing the interceptor to lose guidance during the terminal phase of the engagement. As a result, the missile veered off trajectory and hit the ground within the base perimeter. There have been other instances at bases across the Middle East where interceptor missiles deviated from their intended flight path and impacted the ground after a failed or incomplete interception. This is footage of an Israeli Hermes-type drone shot down by Iranian air defense. The drone crashed onto a street in one of the cities in Isfahan province. These male-category drones provide real-time battlefield surveillance and can also designate targets for strikes using a laser target designator. Over the past 2 days, Iranian forces have reportedly downed multiple drones over their territory using the Product 358 missile. This system is a type of loitering munition equipped with an infrared seeker at its tip, and it is manually guided by an operator during the engagement. This is a video showing the capture of a pilot from a U.S. Air Force F-15E aircraft that was shot down over Kuwait. Initially, local residents mistook him for an Iranian pilot and nearly carried out a lynching using sticks. However, the pilot managed to convince those around him that he was American and should not be harmed. He was later treated with hospitality. According to Kuwaiti sources, 3 U.S. aircraft were shot down due to friendly fire, while the Iranian side also claimed that they had hit the jets. An Iranian ballistic missile has successfully struck the capital of Israel. What's most notable here isn't just the impact, but the lack of resistance. Unlike previous barrages, where we saw 2 to 3 interceptors launched per missile, it is a clear signal that air defenses are reaching a breaking point. This wasn't even one of their hypersonic models. Meanwhile, Tehran has announced that production lines are running at full speed. They aren't worried about depletion. In fact, they claim they're prepared to sustain this missile campaign for the long haul. Iranian forces have destroyed one of the most important radar systems at a military base in Qatar. An over-the-horizon missile attack warning radar system, the ANF-PS-132, was damaged. The radar is designed to detect and track the launch of ballistic missiles. On the first day, an Iranian drone reportedly struck its northeastern section, the side facing toward Iran. It has now been confirmed that the radar sustained serious damage, and debris from the explosion reportedly landed on the roof. This is footage of a Shahed 136 drone moving toward a U.S. base in Bahrain. As it approached the target, the drone dived and struck the object. This raises serious questions about the level of air defense preparedness in the Gulf. A slow-moving drone, flying at medium altitude, was able to reach and hit its target without injury. The drone should have been neutralized, especially considering that the country operates 4th and 4++ generation fighter aircraft. Valuable lessons could be learned from Ukrainian forces, who have developed multiple innovative methods to counter similar drone threats. This is footage of an Iranian ballistic missile equipped with a cluster warhead. The missile explodes during the re-entry phase, dispersing multiple submunitions that descend in fragments over the target area. There is no visible interception of this missile system. An unexploded submunition was also found on the ground. The recovered fragment shows rear fins and a thermal coating, designed to protect the warhead from the extreme atmospheric heat generated at high speeds during re-entry. The submunitions land in a wide dispersal pattern, effectively causing munitions to rain down across the area. On the southern Lebanon border, Hezbollah fighters struck an Israeli Merkava tank with a Kornet anti-tank guided missile. The tank was deployed as part of an offensive operation in the area. A notable point is that despite the missile being laser-guided, the tank did not appear to react or deploy countermeasures such as smoke grenades. However, the hit cannot be fully confirmed. The Merkava is equipped with a Trophy active protection system, and from the available footage, it is difficult to determine whether the missile successfully impacted the tank or was neutralized mid-air. Iranian forces have begun deploying the advanced Hadid-110 kamikaze drone, which features improved speed and enhanced stealth characteristics. The drone is compact and jet-powered. It has a maximum speed of 510 kilometers per hour and carries a 30-kilogram warhead. This payload is sufficient to destroy strategic targets such as radar installations and command structures. The drone has an operational range of 350 kilometers. This is footage of an Iranian drone attack on Azerbaijan. Whether by chance or not, drones likely launched from Iran flew over the airport in Nakhchivan. There are reports of 2 drone strikes. The attack was reportedly carried out using a long-range Arsh-2 drone. The Iranian side targeting areas across the region appears illogical. The main issue seems to be a lack of coordination among its forces. As stated, there is a nuclei-based system in its forces with no unified chain of command, with different units operating independently. This footage shows an attack by Iranian ballistic missiles on oil refinery Bahrain Petroleum Company in the port of Sitra in Bahrain. 3 missiles struck the target without any resistance. Fire was later observed at the refinery following the impact. Another piece of footage shows an attack on a U.S. base in Bahrain, possibly involving the use of a cluster warhead missile. The naval base is strategically important, as it supports U.S. ships and carrier strike groups in terms of logistics and communication. This is a footage released by Iranian forces about the shooting down of a fighter jet. The aircraft's silhouette matched that of an F-15 fighter jet, and it was claimed that the jet was targeted. The weapon system used appears to be the Product 358, which has previously been successful in downing drones. However, the fighter jet managed to escape the lock by releasing flares, which broke the infrared lock of the missile, as seen in the footage. The electro-optical tracking system remained focused on the countermeasures that were dispensed instead of the aircraft. Iranian forces released footage showing the launch of Arsh-2 and Shahed 136 drones during strikes claimed to target U.S. bases in Kuwait and Bahrain in recent hours. The Arsh-2 is a long-range one-way attack drone capable of carrying a warhead of roughly 150 kilograms, significantly larger than the 30 to 50 kilogram payload typically carried by Shahed 136 drones. The Arsh-2 has an estimated range of around 2,000 kilometers. In terms of speed, it is also faster than the Shahed 136. In new footage, an Iranian ballistic missile is seen hitting Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. The missile strikes the target at high speed without any visible resistance. The base is located about 650 kilometers from the Iranian coast in the Persian Gulf, placing it well within the strike range of Iranian medium-range ballistic missiles. Even from central Iran, the base can easily be targeted. The missile fired is most likely a hypersonic variant. Iran is targeting bases in Gulf countries that support U.S. forces. Israeli special forces carried out a tactical helicopter landing in the Bekaa Valley of eastern Lebanon, reportedly near the town of Nabi Shit. As the commandos deployed, both the helicopters and troops reportedly came under heavy gunfire from Hezbollah fighters in the area. Hezbollah claims that several Israeli special forces were surrounded inside a house, neutralized during the fighting. Reports suggest the Israeli paratroopers suffered losses and attempted to withdraw, while the helicopters briefly entered nearby Syrian airspace during the operation to support the evacuation. An Iranian kamikaze drone struck a building at Dubai airport. The drone was most likely an Arsh or Shahed 136, powered by a propeller. The intended target was likely the radar or the communication system at the tower, but the drone appears to have missed the main objective. Iranian forces are currently conducting strikes across the Gulf region. Civilian aircrafts can also be seen in the background of the footage. Earlier, there were also strikes on this airport. Flight operations at the airport are currently limited. In a recent attack on Israel, the Iranian side reportedly used the Khorramshahr 4 medium-range ballistic missile, equipped with a warhead carrying around 80 submunitions. The missile was reportedly aimed at Ben Gurion Airport, where smoke was seen rising after the strike. Air refueler tankers were deployed at the base, while the Israeli Air Force keeps most of its aircraft inside heavily hardened shelters, which are not easily affected by submunitions. However, the scattering of submunitions across the runway could slow down the intensity of air operations against Iran. The runway would need to be cleared of unexploded submunitions before normal takeoffs could resume. This is a Shahed 136 drone flying toward a target in Bahrain. The drone struck a high-rise building with its 50-kilogram warhead. The Iranian side claims it is targeting such buildings because, after strikes on military infrastructure, new command and control centers have reportedly been established there. Furthermore, it is alleged that troops are also being stationed in hotel buildings. The strikes on skyscrapers in most cases result in a fire, which is extremely hard to extinguish, and in most cases, whole building burned. An Iranian kamikaze drone struck the radar station at Ali Al Salem Air Base in Kuwait. The drone accurately hit the radar tower, leading to its complete destruction. Interestingly, the footage was recorded by a U.S. soldier from a nearby compound. Most likely, the Iranian drone used in the strike was equipped with a homing seeker that used passive sensing to accurately strike the target from long range. This is an Iranian ballistic missile moving toward a target in Tel Aviv. The notable point is that the missile entered the layered air defense alone and still managed to hit the target. The reduction in the launches of Iranian ballistic missiles indicates two possible developments. One is the degradation of launch capability, meaning launchers and missile bases may have been hit. The other possibility is that Iranian forces have shifted towards sustaining the war, conserving their missile inventory, as there is no definite timeline for the end of the conflict. This is footage of a strike on an American relay station in the Shindroy area in the Kurdistan region of Iraq by Iran. The exact type of weapon used is not known, but it appears to be a kamikaze drone controlled in real time by the operator. The impact was not very large, indicating a relatively limited payload. The strike was precise and successfully knocked out the tower housing passive sensors for intelligence gathering. The station also houses relay equipment that supports communications. Iranian forces carried out a major attack on Bahrain. The targets included the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet Base in Bahrain and the Bapco Oil Company. Notably, Patriot missiles were launched to repel the attack. One of the interceptor missiles veered off course and struck a residential area, damaging several houses and cars. Despite the deployment of Patriot batteries in the region, the defense was not fully successful, and some projectiles hit their targets, resulting in columns of smoke rising over Manama, the capital of Bahrain. In a recent development, Hezbollah's missiles hit the Israeli satellite station Emek Hayela in the Elah Valley. The station is around 160 kilometers away from the Lebanese border, indicating that larger caliber rockets or a missile were deployed, and the destruction pattern shows multiple impacts. Although this was not a strike on the servers and computers linked to the space program, the transmitter and receiver modules were damaged, while communication-related activity through this station will likely be restored later. For now, the Iranian air defense shot down 2 more MQ-9 drones over Bushehr, Iran. The total number of drones lost since the beginning of the war has now reached 11. The number of Israeli drones of this category shot down is counted separately. A single MQ-9 costs around $33 million, and the total cost of the 11 drones exceeds $330 million. Most of these interceptions are to be attributed to the Product 358 missile system, a low-cost air defense system that operates on the principle of electro-optical guidance. Iranian forces launched BM-120 multi-launch rockets, also known as the Fateh 360, toward one of the American bases in Kuwait. The missile system uses guided rocket projectiles, similar in concept to the rockets fired by HIMARS. A single launch vehicle carries 6 368mm rockets. These rockets can strike targets at ranges of up to 120 kilometers, and each carries a 150-kilogram load. The rockets can reach speeds of around Mach 4, and when fired in a salvo, interception becomes a challenging task for air defense systems. In this interesting interception of a drone by an Iranian air defense system, a lock was maintained on the drone. Then, anti-aircraft fire appeared in the field of view, which briefly affected the interface, and the system momentarily tracked each shell. The interface of the air defense system appears to be very effective. As the tracer rounds faded away, the lock was again maintained on the drone, and a missile was launched that successfully hit the target. The air defense system used was the Product 358, which has proven to be highly effective against drones. This footage shows an Iranian Shahed 136 drone striking an oil storage facility at Salalah Port in Oman. At the moment, several tanks are burning, and the fire is intensifying. 3 storage tanks are already engulfed in flames, while a fourth has swollen due to heat and is likely to catch fire as well. In total, there are 10 storage tanks at the facility. According to the Iranian side, the strike is aimed at port infrastructure to prevent U.S. ships from refueling there. A single low-cost drone has caused significant damage, making this a major strike on an energy facility. The Islamic Resistance of Iraq launched Hadid-110 kamikaze drones toward U.S. bases in Iraq. Multiple drones were reportedly launched in the attack. This appears to be the first recorded use of this latest Iranian drone by allied groups in Iraq. The incident also suggests that the drone may already be in mass production, allowing Iranian forces to supply it to their regional allies. The Hadid-110 is fast, has a small radar cross-section, and can be difficult to detect and defend against. Hezbollah forces in Lebanon have launched Operation Severe Storm, and it began with a barrage of rockets toward Israel. Up to 100-plus rockets have been fired. The rockets reached the northern part of Israel simultaneously, saturating the air defenses. Although interceptor missiles were launched and a few rockets were intercepted, most penetrated and hit their targets. Rockets of all calibers were used in the strike. Even after attacks on Hezbollah warehouses, they still possesses a huge arsenal of rockets and missiles. The Iranian Navy released footage of its underground naval facility. Similar to a missile base, there are hundreds of boats stationed inside. The boats are armed with anti-ship missiles. They can also lay sea mines, and some are unmanned surface vessels as well. These boats play a vital role in the potential blockage of the Strait of Hormuz, as they are fast and small, with each boat capable of carrying 2 to 3 mines. Although they do not pose a serious threat to a carrier strike group, they can still damage civilian vessels. This is the footage of a strike on the US-owned tanker Safe Sea Vishnu by the Iranian Revolutionary Guards. An unmanned surface vessel hit the tanker at the port of Qasr in Basra, southern Iraq. In the last 24 hours, 5 ships have been attacked in the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. According to the footage, the Iranian unmanned boat was able to approach the tanker at a very close distance and successfully sabotage it. The ship was soon engulfed in flames and was completely lost. This is a damaged KC-135 refueler aircraft at Ben Gurion Airport in Israel. The damage was caused by a mid-air collision between 2 refuelers, most likely during the refueling process. The other aircraft, with 6 people on board, crashed in western Iraq, while this one, with its vertical stabilizer damaged, managed to land back at the base. Aerial refueling is a risky maneuver in which both aircraft fly in close formation at very short distances. Even a small mistake can be deadly. A U.S. refueler aircraft flies during the Iranian missile strike on Israel. In the background, the interception of incoming missiles can be seen. The tanker lifts off at full speed as air defenses engage the targets overhead. The event took place during the Iranian attack on Ben Gurion Airport, where these tankers were stationed. After early warning alerts, the aircraft were quickly dispatched to avoid any potential damage. Since Iranian forces are using cluster munition warheads, which could be especially lethal for these strategic aircraft. This is the footage of a strike from an Iranian ballistic missile hitting southern Israel, most likely targeting Nevatim Air Base. The Iranian forces also released footage of the launch of the missile towards southern Israel. The exact type of missile cannot be confirmed. The missile fell near Arad before reaching the target and hit the ground. Most likely, the missile was intercepted, as the burning warhead is visible. The missile was heading toward Nevatim Air Base, which is the most important military base in Israel. Iranian forces show an underground tunnel, a massive tunnel filled with Shahed 136 kamikaze drones. The number of drones appears to be in the thousands. Each drone is placed on its launch rail platform and just has to be towed to the launch site. The tunnel is wide enough to house drones on both sides with a path in between. The main objective of releasing such footage is to show that Iran still has the numbers to sustain the war and can continue launching strikes. And this is the storage facility of just one drone type. This is the same footage of air defense activity over Dubai from different angles. The video clearly shows interceptor missiles from a Patriot battery self-destructing shortly after launch for unknown reasons, likely due to a malfunction. Earlier, there were reports suggesting that the South Korean LSAM system might be involved, as it features booster sections, and the footage was captured from a significant distance. However, in this footage, it can be clearly seen that the missiles are being launched in succession and are not intercepting any targets. The system appears to be experiencing a malfunction. An Iranian ballistic missile struck the Riyadh area of Saudi Arabia. The impact caused a powerful explosion and a large-scale fire, with dense black smoke rising from the site following the strike. The target appears to have been an energy and gas facility. Earlier, Iran had warned that it would target energy infrastructure in countries across the region following strikes on its own facilities. At present, it remains unclear what type of missile was used and how the air defense systems performed. Iranian forces carried out a ballistic missile attack on Qatar's Ras Laffan industrial city, home to the world's largest liquefied natural gas production facilities. According to the Qatar State Oil and Gas Company, the facility suffered significant damage, and there are no reported casualties. As prior warnings indicated, the site could be targeted. All personnel had reportedly been evacuated following Iran's warning that it would strike energy infrastructure in response to earlier attacks on its own gas industry facilities. In the footage, a ballistic missile can be seen striking the target, with another impact also visible. An Iranian ballistic missile struck a power plant unit at the Haifa refinery, with thick black smoke rising from the site, and it's spreading. A single ballistic missile hit the target area, most likely as part of the 64th wave. Iranian forces had already targeted oil facilities in Gulf countries on the 18th of March, following strikes on their own facilities by Israel. The strike on the power plant unit results in the halt of the operations. In previous 12 days' war, this refinery suffered a major damage. Iranian air defense hit a US F-35 aircraft, and footage captured by an electro-optical system is also being released. According to reports from US media, an F-35 made an emergency landing at one of the bases in the Middle East, and the pilot is in stable condition. From the footage, it appears that the missile, identified as Product 358, struck the aircraft. The jet may have suffered rear damage, but remained in a flyable condition, allowing it to make an emergency landing. This is clear footage of an Iranian ballistic missile striking the refinery at Haifa. Iranian forces reportedly deployed a cluster munition warhead, with sub-munitions dispersing over a wide area upon impact. According to the Israeli Defense Forces, the damage was minimal. The impact was attributed to debris from an intercepted missile. However, there is a direct impact, and the use of cluster munitions is specifically intended to spread multiple sub-munitions across a target area, where even individually limited impacts can collectively cause significant damage. This is the interception of Iranian ballistic missiles over Dimona. 2 missiles were successfully intercepted by the Iron Dome system during the daytime. In a second wave of attacks, Iranian forces launched a hypersonic ballistic missile, which, due to its speed, bypassed air defenses and struck the target, generating a powerful shockwave upon impact. Dimona, located in the southern part of Israel, is a strategically significant area, as it houses a nuclear facility. The missiles were launched by Iran, following the strike on its Natanz nuclear facility. Currently, Iranian forces are conducting missile launches as a response, matching the escalation ladder. Hezbollah fighters engaged multiple Israeli Merkava tanks using anti-tank guided missiles. In the footage, a column of 5 armored vehicles was ambushed. The footage is recorded from different locations, and the tanks were engaged from different positions, but notably almost simultaneously. To counter trophy active protection systems, Hezbollah employed different weapons, including anti-tank missiles with dual launchers, along with Top Attack Almas anti-tank guided missiles. Following the strikes, several of the armored vehicles caught fire, with crew members seen abandoning them. This abandonment suggests the vehicles were heavily damaged and likely rendered inoperable. Iranian forces launched 2 ballistic missiles toward a U.S.-operated base in Diego Garcia. One of the missiles fell short of the required distance, while the second was intercepted by SM-3 missile from a destroyer. Interestingly, the distance from Iran to the base is 3,800 kilometers. This raises questions about whether Iran possesses missiles with ranges exceeding 2,000 kilometers, as confidence in such long-range capability would be essential for a strike of this nature. Currently, no such missile has been officially demonstrated by Iran for this specific range. However, it could have been a 3-stage satellite carrier rocket Qaim-100, on the basis of which it is possible to create even a light intercontinental ballistic missile. Hezbollah fighters launched kamikaze drones toward Israel. The drones were aimed at the Ein Zaitim military base, which is located north of the city of Safed, in northern Israel. The drones used were Sayad 107. The build quality suggests that the drones are manufactured locally. These drones are powered by electric motors and carry a limited payload. In total, 3 drones were launched. Notably, there is a tunnel from which the fighters emerge. The unlined earthen walls indicate that the structure is recently constructed. An Iranian ballistic missile struck Arad, resulting in damage to multiple buildings, with the number reported to be up to 8. From the available footage, it appears to have been a hypersonic missile. Israel also claimed that a ballistic missile carrying a half-ton warhead hit the area after evading 2 interceptors. This aligns with the warhead weight of the Fateh-1 hypersonic missile. The missile has a range of approximately 1,400 kilometers and can reach speeds between Mach 13 and Mach 15, featuring a maneuverable re-entry vehicle and a solid fuel motor designed to evade air defense systems. This is a USMQ-9 Reaper drone that was shot down by Iranian air defense over Bushehr. The Iranian side has managed to shoot down multiple drones belonging to both the United States and Israel using its air defense systems. These drones pose a serious threat as they can loiter in the air for hours, especially over missile launch sites, and they also have the capability to strike targets with air-to-ground munitions. Iranian forces are likely attempting to launch ballistic missiles only after clearing the skies of such drones. Iranian air defense targeted an F-15 fighter jet in the airspace of southern Iran, near the Strait of Hormuz. The infrared tracking system maintained a lock on the jet, and according to the Iranian side, a surface-to-air missile was also fired. However, in the footage, smoke can be seen ejected from the aircraft, which could be flares or other countermeasures deployed by the jet. At this point, it remains unclear whether the fighter jet survived or was shot down. The F-15 is in service with the United States, Israel, and several Gulf countries. Hezbollah has released footage showing missile strikes on the headquarters of the Shayetet 13 Special Marine Operations Unit south of Haifa. Interestingly, Iranian short-range ballistic missiles, identified as Fateh 360, were reportedly used in the attack. These systems were allegedly smuggled into Lebanon by the Iran through uncontrolled areas of Syria. The missiles were mounted on launch rails concealed within a truck container, and both were successfully launched toward Haifa. Hezbollah fighters engaged an Israeli Hermes 450 drone over southern Lebanon. The drone was shot down using a Misag-1 manpads. The operator fired the missile from a concealed position and successfully hit the drone. Notably, the drone was tracked using an infrared device in the field prior to the launch. The Misag-1 is an Iranian-produced clone of the Chinese QW-1 Vanguard, which itself is derived from the Soviet Igla-1 system. The missile has an operational range of approximately 6 kilometers and a flight ceiling of around 5 kilometers. Iranian forces launched a cluster munition warhead missile on the night of March 23rd over the capital city of Israel, Tel Aviv. This type of missile is regularly used by the Iranian side. In terms of its effect on the ground, the overall damage cannot be fully assessed, as the submunitions dispersed over a wide area. Additionally, the missile is primarily used by Iranian forces to target air bases, some fragments landing outside the intended target zone. Something can also be seen burning on the hills following the strike. This is an Iranian ballistic missile striking Ashkelon. The missile streaks down toward its target, while the interceptor self-destructs after failing to intercept. A single interceptor missile was launched, indicating conservation and defense. The ballistic missile successfully hits the target. According to Iranian sources, the strikes are aimed at newly deployed positions of the Israeli army. They also claim to have adapted their tactics against air defense systems, allowing their missiles to more effectively evade interception. A video has been circulating that shows an F-15 being shot down, with claims that it is from a recent engagement. While the footage does indeed show an F-15 going down, it is actually from an earlier incident in which 3 F-15s were shot down by Kuwaiti F-18 Hornets, captured from a different angle. That event took place on 2nd March. In contrast, during the recent developments, Iranian air defense systems only managed to lock onto an F-15, which successfully evaded the threat after deploying countermeasures. Iran has demonstrated one of its underground air defense bases, showcasing large reserves of missiles, the ability to reload safely, and sufficient space to accommodate major air defense systems. The weapons are stored inside containers, indicating long-term storage capability over the years. Interestingly, within the tunnels, vehicles are resupplied using cranes installed inside the facility. These complexes extend for kilometers underground, making them highly resilient. The destruction of these underground missile cities is difficult, as exact layouts are not available. As a result, strikes are primarily carried out on the entrances, which can often be reopened after a short period of time. During the recent attack on Israel, Iranian forces used a new type of ballistic missile. The missile ejects 4 submunitions, each weighing around 100 kilograms. According to Israeli officials, one missile was launched, carrying 3 to 4 warheads of approximately 100 kilograms each. As a result of the strike, at least 3 buildings suffered significant damage. The interceptor missile locks onto the carrier, while the main payload is ejected before impact, making the air defense systems ineffective. An Iranian ballistic missile struck its target in Safed, bypassing interceptor missiles at very close range. The missile was hypersonic, although most ballistic missiles already reach hypersonic speeds in their terminal phase. This one was traveling at speeds above Mach 15, compared to the typical Mach 10 of regular Iranian missiles. This extreme velocity made interception nearly impossible. It is not that the missile faced no defenses during its mid-course phase. Israeli layered air defense systems, such as Arrow 3 and David Sling, are designed to engage threats at different stages. The Islamic Resistance in Iraq, which is a pro-Iranian group, carried out an attack using FPV drones on U.S. forces at Victoria Base. At first, a drone struck the radar unit at the base. The radar was an ANM PQ-64 Sentinel, a short-range 3D search radar with a range of around 40 kilometers. Another drone provided reconnaissance of the strike. Then, a separate drone hit a UH-60 helicopter. The drone's flight was extremely unstable, yet the operator still managed to hit the target. Had it been a wire-guided drone, the strike could have been more lethal. Iranian forces carried out a missile strike near the Orat Rabin thermal power station, located close to the Israeli city of Hadera. This thermal power station is the largest in Israel, providing around 20 to 25% of the country's total electricity generation and carrying the base load for the central region, including Tel Aviv and its surrounding areas. The strike may have been intended as a warning shot in case Israel wanted to strike Iranian energy facilities, or it could have simply been a targeting error. The Iranian Navy fired anti-ship cruise missiles from coastal batteries at the American aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln. Apparently, the Iranians had received information that it was approaching their coastline again, previously when the carrier came within about 350 kilometers of the Iranian coast. A series of launches involving various anti-ship missiles followed, although all projectiles were neutralized. After the launch of missiles, the aircraft carrier reportedly moved roughly 1,000 kilometers away from the area. This time, the carrier may have once again moved closer, prompting a similar response. As per the Iranian side, a USF-18 Super Hornet was shot down by Iranian air defense. The jet was flying at low altitude when it was engaged by a short-range portable air defense system. After being hit, the fighter jet turned toward the Indian Ocean, and according to Iranian claims, the downed aircraft ultimately crashed there. However, given the relatively limited power of such missiles, it is also possible that the aircraft could have remained airborne long enough to reach an aircraft carrier or an airfield in the Gulf region. Earlier, F-18s had been observed flying at low altitude over this area. Hezbollah fighters targeted 2 Israeli armored vehicles in the town square of Taybeh, southern Lebanon, using drones or anti-tank missiles. Initially, a Namer armor personnel carrier was struck, with the operator hitting a module of the Trophy Active Protection System directly. A second drone then targeted a Merkava tank accompanying the armored carrier that had been hit earlier. The attack appears to have been a top attack profile, likely intended to bypass the active protection system. However, the close-up of the tank strike was not shown, raising the possibility that the protection system may have intercepted the incoming projectile. This is footage of an Iranian cluster munition warhead in its terminal phase over Tel Aviv on the night of the 27th of March. The Iranian side has been regularly employing cluster warheads over the city. The distinctive star-like pattern formed during submunitions ejection is clearly visible. The frequent use of these munitions is mainly due to 2 reasons. First, they are difficult to intercept. And second, they produce a wide area effect. Once the submunitions are released, they cannot be stopped, as around 24 submunitions disperse and fall in a closely packed pattern. Hezbollah fighters carried out an FPV drone strike on a Merkava Mark III tank in the Lebanese settlement of Merkava. The drone approached the tank from the rear and struck the turret ring as the turret was turning to the left, most likely while observing the area. The operator appears to have aimed for the rear crew compartment, impacting the upper section of the chassis. The rear section is one of the weakest points on this tank, which is likely why the operator selected this attack trajectory. This is most likely the first recorded footage of an FPV drone strike on an Israeli Merkava tank. Iranian forces have revealed an underground missile bunker where transporter erector launcher vehicles carrying ballistic missiles are seen moving inside. Interestingly, the geometric design of the tunnel is spacious enough to accommodate such large vehicles. These vehicles move out of the underground complex, launch their missiles, and then return inside, making detection extremely difficult. There are also vertical shafts through which missiles can be launched from within the facility, provided there is an efficient ventilation system in place. Iranian forces struck another tanker that attempted to pass through the Strait of Hormuz without authorization. The Safin Prestige, which had already been abandoned by its crew, was hit by an anti-ship missile. The vessel appears to have acted on misleading signals, suggesting that the passage was open, but it was ultimately targeted. According to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the movement of tankers linked to U.S. and Israeli allies through the Strait of Hormuz is prohibited. This incident underscores that the passage remains effectively closed and that civilian maritime transit in the area is at significant risk. Hezbollah fighters engaged an Israeli Merkava Mark IV tank with a Kornet anti-tank guided missile on March 24th on the outskirts of the city of Kuz, southern Lebanon. The missile struck the rear of the tank, targeting the isolated fuel compartment. Following the impact, the tank caught fire and began to withdraw, likely to avoid a potential second strike. The crew maneuvered the vehicle behind the building to take cover. The rear section is one of the more vulnerable areas of the Merkava, despite its overall heavy protection. In this case, the tank appears to have sustained significant damage and is likely out of service. Hezbollah fighters engaged an Israeli Merkava tank with an anti-tank missile in the town of Deir Serian in southern Lebanon. In the footage, it initially appears to be a direct hit due to the visible fireball over the tank. However, this is actually the interception by the Trophy Active Protection System. The impact effect of multiple explosively formed penetrators striking a nearby building indicates that the incoming round was successfully neutralized. Since the interception occurs very close to the tank, it can easily be mistaken for a direct hit. This is the wreckage of a downed KC-135 refueler aircraft in Iraq. The debris is scattered over a wide area, indicating a high-impact crash. The crew of the aircraft did not survive. According to claims by an Iranian state broadcaster, the plane was shot down by a missile fired by one of the Shiite groups in Iraq. However, another refueler aircraft with a damaged tail section was later seen at Ben Gurion Airport, suggesting the possibility of a mid-air collision during a refueling operation involving both aircraft. Hezbollah fighters engaged an Israeli Merkava tank in southern Lebanon using the Almas anti-tank guided missile. A key advantage of this system is that it provides the operator with a clear, real-time view of the battlefield, enabling better situational awareness and follow-up target selection. In this instance, 3 additional armored vehicles were identified. As the missile approached the tank, the Trophy Active Protection System activated. The modules, equipped with multiple explosively formed penetrators, rotated toward the incoming threat. However, they were not fired to intercept the missile. The projectile ultimately struck the front section of the tank, where the engine is housed, disabling it. The Iranian air defense has shot down another US MQ-9 drone near Shiraz. Footage shows a high-speed surface-to-air missile detonating close to the UAV, striking the MQ-9 with shrapnel. There is no footage of the crash itself. The drone vanished from the optoelectronic system's view, bursting into flames and leaving a thick trail of smoke. The missile likely struck the fuel system, causing a streak of leaking fuel. The number of medium-category drones from both the US and Israel shot down by Iran is significant. These are images of an E-3 Sentry AWACS reportedly destroyed by Iranian forces at Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia on March 27th. A ballistic missile struck the tarmac with high accuracy, hitting the area where the aircraft was parked. Alongside it, aerial refueling tankers were also reportedly destroyed. This represents a major loss for U.S. forces, as the aircraft is one of the most critical strategic assets and a core component of modern aerial warfare. Only around 14 to 16 units are currently in service. What stands out here is the apparent precision of the strike, suggesting that Iranian forces had exact information about the aircraft's location and the timing of its presence on the ground. An Iranian ballistic missile struck a petrochemical plant in Be'er Sheva, Israel. The attack was carried out with a single missile, and it remains unclear whether a cluster munition variant was used. The strike was followed by Israeli attacks on Iranian industrial targets, where 2 steel production plants were hit. These exchanges appear to be retaliatory in nature, with both sides targeting key infrastructure in response to previous strikes on their territories. Thick black smoke can be seen rising from the facility, indicating significant damage and an intense fire. Hezbollah's Radwan forces countered an infiltration attempt by the Israeli army in southern Lebanon using anti-tank guided missiles, multiple launch rockets, and also artillery shells. A guided missile, likely a Kornet anti-tank system, was launched at an armored vehicle. The engagement took place in the municipality of Al-Qatar, where the leading vehicle was struck first by an anti-tank missile. Hezbollah appears to be operating a Kornet launcher setup capable of engaging multiple targets in quick succession, allowing the operator to fire at up to 3 targets one after another. The rocket fire was less accurate, with projectiles dispersing over a wide area rather than striking precise points. The entire operation was monitored and recorded by a drone, providing real-time battlefield observation. Iranian forces shot down a U.S. Navy reconnaissance drone over the Strait of Hormuz. The drone is identified as the RQ-21A Blackjack. It features twin tail booms with a single engine, weighs around 55 kilograms, and has an endurance of approximately 2 hours. The air defense system used appears to be the same Product 358, a standalone system equipped with an electro-optical sight and loitering interceptor missiles. These missiles can remain airborne for extended periods, waiting for a target to enter their engagement envelope. Hezbollah launched 302mm guided Nasser-1 missiles toward a military factory operated by the Israeli company Rafael in the Yodafat area. The missile is capable of carrying a 100-kilogram warhead to a range of up to 100 kilometers. A single launch vehicle fired 2 missiles simultaneously. The Nasser-1 is a guided variant of the 302mm M302 artillery rocket, fitted with an additional guidance kit. This guidance significantly enhances its accuracy, reducing its circular error probable to around 5 meters. The pro-Iranian militia in Iraq conducted a strike on Baghdad airport, hitting an Iraqi Air Force Antonov AN-32B transport aircraft. Based on the observed damage, it is most likely an FPV drone strike rather than a missile attack, as the airframe remains largely intact. The aircraft's right engine appears to have been struck and subsequently burned out completely. Earlier drone strikes had also been carried out by the group. The base is protected by a CRAM system, which is generally not effective against small drones. Hezbollah forces targeted a group of Israeli soldiers in the town of Al-Qawza in southern Lebanon. A Kornet E anti-tank guided missile was fired at a building while the soldiers were inside. The blast pattern suggests that a missile with a tandem heat warhead was used, rather than a thermobaric variant typically intended for bunker neutralization. A possible reason could be the limited availability of that variant, as the Kornet was primarily acquired for engaging armored targets. Based on the nature of the strike, it is likely that the soldiers inside sustained injuries. Iranian forces shot down 2 US MQ-9 drones over Isfahan, Iran. The drones were reportedly intercepted using the Product 358 air defense system, which employs an electro-optical guidance method, allowing the launch point to remain completely concealed. The drones were conducting surveillance over the area and were most likely deployed in succession. After the destruction of the first, a second was sent to continue the mission. Due to their relatively slow speed, the surveillance drones proved vulnerable, resulting in a significant loss. This is footage recorded by a soldier from inside a bunker at a US base in Jubair, Bahrain. The soldier captured an approaching Iranian ballistic missile, which impacted right next to their bunker. The soldiers had prior warning of the missile attack, allowing them to move into the safe zone and remain protected. Interestingly, the US has placed an urgent order for portable, rapidly deployable human bunkers to be deployed in the Middle East. This highlights the necessity, as the large area of the base requires such bunkers to be positioned across multiple locations. An Iranian ballistic missile struck a US base in Jordan. In the footage, 2 Patriot interceptor missiles can be seen launching. They failed to intercept or even get close to the incoming threat. The warhead was maneuvering in terminal phase. The ballistic missile impacted the base at very high speed. Iranian forces are targeting US bases across the Middle East, with a primary focus on radar installations, including the one linked to anti-ballistic missile defense systems that provide early warning against incoming ballistic missile threats. This is footage of a US base in Kuwait being continuously struck by Iranian forces. The base became a target of Iranian ballistic missiles and drones. The installation is Camp Buehring, located in the northwest of Kuwait. The scale of damage appears significant. Hangars are burned, along with barracks and maintenance facilities. The base was protected by layered air defense systems, which failed to intercept the incoming threats. Even advanced systems such as THAAD and Patriot were deployed there, but their radar systems were reportedly destroyed during the initial strikes. An Iranian ballistic missile struck a US headquarters in Bahrain. The missile successfully hit its target, evading 2 interceptor missiles. The location targeted was the US 5th Fleet Base. The missile descended at very high speed during its terminal phase, likely aided by the warhead's rear booster section. Upon impact, thick black smoke began to rise, indicating a direct and powerful hit on the target. This base has been subjected to multiple strikes previously by the Iranians. Besides the US drone shot down over Shiraz on 2nd April, a Wingloom 2 drone was also brought down by Iranian air defense. The footage appears to show the Wingloom, as the rear section and other parts matches that of the same drone. This male drone is in service with the Saudi Armed Forces and the United Arab Emirates. The recovered wreckage of the surface-to-air missile indicates it was launched from the 3rd Khordad system. Interestingly, this SAM system is capable of firing both electro-optical and radar-guided missiles. Hezbollah fighters engaged the Merkava Mark IV using a wire-guided Almas anti-tank missile in the Al-Bayad area of the Tyre region in southern Lebanon. It also brought 2 additional missile canisters to be fired from the same launcher. After the launch, the fiber optic cable used to control the missile can be clearly seen in the footage, despite the Israeli army installing a protective cover over the turret. The operator, with precise guidance, successfully struck the turret roof. Interestingly, the Trophy Active Protection System didn't get activated against the strike. Iranian forces launched Sejil missiles toward Israel, with 2 missiles fired simultaneously in a coordinated salvo. In the footage, the missiles can be seen separating from their booster stages before transitioning into the mid-course phase of flight. The launch reportedly took place from a new location in Semnan, marking the first time missiles have been fired from that site. The Sejil is a medium-range ballistic missile with an estimated range of 2,000 kilometers and a warhead capacity of approximately 1.5 tons. This is aerial footage of the evacuation site. At the location, the wreckage of 2 HC-130J Combat King 2 aircraft and an MH-6 Little Bird helicopter can be seen. These were reportedly destroyed by US forces during a rescue operation in Iran. What strengthens this claim is the absence of any visible human remains in the burned wreckage. One possibility is that the Iranian side struck the aircraft while they were on the ground. Following this, US forces may have called in a backup team, which ultimately managed to evacuate all the personnel along with the second pilot. Recent reports from U.S. intelligence suggest that Iran's missile network is proving harder to break than expected. Iranian forces have been rapidly repairing underground missile bunkers and returning launch systems to operation within hours after strikes. Despite sustained U.S. and Israeli attacks, much of Iran's missile capability remains intact. The use of decoys, concealed launchers, and fortified shelters has made it difficult to accurately assess real damage on the ground. Iran continues to launch strikes at a reduced but controlled pace, maintaining long-term operational capacity. Hezbollah fired one of its most powerful weapons, R-17 Elbrus Scud-B ballistic missile, toward Israel. The missiles have been acquired in the 2000s, but until now, there had been no visual confirmation of its presence in service with Hezbollah. It is a Soviet-era weapon system. The Scud-B variant is a short-range ballistic missile with a range of up to 300 kilometers and a warhead weighing around 800 kilograms. The guidance system is inertial. This missile could also be the Golan one, a locally produced copy of the Scud system developed in Syria. A pro-Iranian militia in Iraq released interesting footage showing the launch of drones toward a U.S. base in Iraq, most likely targeting Erbil. A semi-trailer disguised as a civilian vehicle was driven to the launch site. Once in position, the cover was removed, revealing 3 Shahed 107 drones mounted on launch rails. The operator then programmed the drones with target coordinates and launched them one after another. Each drone have a range of up to 1,500 kilometers and carries a warhead weighing approximately 40 kilograms.